thing is so much fun. So this is a 1996 Subaru Vivio RX-R. It's a Japanese K car. Get really good gas mileage. They're tiny. They're very compact. If you're familiar with the old Morris Minis, the original Minis from the 60s, this is the same size. So, width-wise, length-wise, I believe the Morris was a little bit longer than this, or maybe it was a little shorter, one of the two, but they're so close in size that it's basically a Japanese Mini Cooper. This one is 5-speed. It was used in Japan, I believe, for rally of some sort. I mean, as you can see, it's got a Brid Lomax racing seat in it. The interior is completely stripped out, no interior plastics other than the door cards. Has power windows, auto down, auto up for the driver, all-wheel drive, but the craziest thing is it's supercharged. So I don't know if you can hear that whine, but oh my gosh, does this thing whine. So it's got a little tiny Roots style blower. It's made by Aisin. It makes, on this car, it's making about 12 pounds of boost. So it's actually pretty crazy. I don't know if that's the factory spec or not. There's no radio, so to speak. There's a radio in the car, still tuned to the Japanese radio stations that are over there. The frequencies in Japan are not the same as the US, so unfortunately, there's no radio. This little thing gets, I've been getting about 28 miles to the gallon with it, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, but it handles really well. 0 to 60 is, on the book, is 16 seconds or so. I'm not 100% sure what the 0 to 60 is on this guy right now. I want to say it's probably closer to 10. I think that 0 to 60 time was for the non-supercharged versions. So this guy might be a 0 to 60 in a whopping 10 seconds. It definitely accelerates faster than you think, or that you feel it does, and it's probably actually just slower than it feels, but because it's so tiny, it looks like it. The all-wheel drive system in this thing is pretty neat. It's obviously not a typical Subaru, symmetrical all-wheel drive. Has a transverse transaxle on it, just like your standard front-wheel drive, but somewhere along the middle of the output shaft, they threw a bevel gear and connected it to the drive shaft. So it makes a ton of noise when you hit bumps. It is sitting on KYB Super Special Rally struts. So they are quite stiff, which is good. It means that the likelihood of this thing rolling over in a harsh turn, or at the track, or autocross, rallycross, whatever, is probably a lot lower than it was if it was stock. Because I could take this corner pretty aggressively, and it doesn't really phase it. The car is just a lot of fun to drive because of the steering and the suspension and how fast it accelerates. It's just a lot of fun to drive. The all-wheel drive system, though, I mean, right, like I said, they put that bevel gear right in the middle of the output shaft, and it just drive shaft straight out the back to the rear differential. But between the drive shaft and the rear differential, that's where Subaru said, you know what, we need to put in a viscous coupling center differential. So the center differential is in line with the drive shaft. It's bolted to the drive shaft and then bolted to the to the car, to the differential. Those noises never get old. We want to rally cross and autocross this thing, maybe even take it to a track night. So we're hoping to do some things with it. It is a lot of fun. It'll definitely be a lot of fun on the track, even though it's not quote unquote fast. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun. So. The car is sitting on 165/60R13 Yokohama Advans. They're a whopping 60 or 6.5 inches wide. It's hilarious. If I widen this thing, widen the wheelbase for racing so that we can further prevent rollover issues, but also just give us a better track width. It's really hard finding a 13-inch tire that will fit inside of this wheel well and not impact the body, the sway bars, things like that. There's only about enough room to go an inch bigger in overall diameter and maybe no more than an inch deeper into our offset. It's a 4x100 lug pattern, so there's plenty of wheel options out there. It's just a matter of finding the right one in a 13 or even a 14-inch wheel. But yeah, the car is just insanely fun to drive. You know, everybody always talks about wanting super powerful cars, and you know, I have a 300 horsepower WRX, and we had that 500 horsepower STI and things like that, and those cars are fun because of the sheer power, you know, the acceleration of having, you know, over 500 horse. It really makes a car different. But to have a slow car drive fast is very rewarding, and I can't wait to see what this thing can do on the track. The biggest challenge that I'm going to run into is trying to see what we can do for SCCA classing. This is going to class under an all-wheel drive car, but they're not going to have any details on this vehicle, you know, for US racing, so it might be a little tricky, you know, in finding what works for them, for us. I do want to put a roll cage in it. There isn't one in it now. It is such a tiny car. It does have a nearly 1-to-1 width to height ratio, so unfortunately that does give it a very, very close ratio to being a rollover during, you know, autocross or rallycross, where, you know, quick turning movements and things like that are done. However, with how tight the suspension is on this thing, I don't necessarily think that the center of gravity shifts enough at the speeds that this thing is capable of doing that it's really going to be a problem. But we're going to go through the necessary steps to kind of mitigate that as much as possible. So we're going to try and increase that track width. I'm going to put a roll cage in it because obviously safety is obviously a big thing. You know, we might like to have fun and goof off and you know, maybe break things here and there, and obviously, you know, drop a gear. But at the same time, I don't feel like rolling the thing and getting hurt really bad. So we're going to still follow some safety rules. But that's a little overview here of the Subaru Vivio RX-R. Again, just a tiny little Japanese K car that is super fun to drive and is basically meant to run around the city, but this particular model could actually also be used in racing.